When does March Madness begin? In my opinion, it's when the conference tournaments start. That's when those teams that are just outside of the bubble, maybe on the NCAA tournament, the big dance, are trying to win their conference tournament and steal a bid. It gets pretty wild. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to use the KenPom prediction formula to predict the entire tournament for the Big 10 and the SEC. Let's get into it. But before we do that, let's check out what used to be called the Power 5. The Power 5 conferences are the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the SEC. Now, I hesitate on the Pac-12. That's because obviously it's barely a conference anymore. The Pac-12 only has 2 teams left. I'm not sure what to call the Pac-12 these days, but I'm definitely not going to count on them to make a big splash in NCAA tournaments. So let's get rid of the Pac-12 here. So do we have a Power 4? Well, the ACC really only has 3 teams that I think are viable for the NCAA tournament. Other than Duke, I'm not going to count on any other ACC teams to make a big splash in the tournament, except for maybe Clemson. So maybe we're left with the Power 3 here, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC. Now, there are great teams in the Big 12, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Arizona. But in my opinion, the top 2 conferences in the nation are the Big 10 and the SEC. I'm calling them the Elite 2. In this video, I'm going to give you a full KenPom bracket for both of these tournaments. I'm going to start with the Big 10 first and give you a full KenPom bracket for that tournament. Then we're going to slide into the SEC, give a full KenPom bracket for the SEC tournament. I'm going to show you this in my spreadsheet. Let's get to it. Here's a full KenPom bracket for the Big 10 tournament, which starts tomorrow, March 12th. In our first round matchup, we have our very first upset. We have Northwestern to win to beat Minnesota, 66% for Northwestern to 34% for Minnesota. These percentages are what the KenPom prediction formula gives us for the win percentage for each team. So we have Northwestern moving forward. We have Ohio State over Iowa and USC over Rutgers. In the second round, the 8 versus a 9, we have Oregon beating Indiana. We have Wisconsin over Northwestern, Illinois over Ohio State, and Purdue over USC. In the third round, the quarterfinals, the top 4 seeds make their first appearance in the tournament. They had a double bye. We have Michigan State over Oregon. Now, this is another upset here. We have Wisconsin 57% to 43% over UCLA. We have Maryland over Illinois, and we have Purdue over Michigan. Now, I know Purdue down here has only won 2 of their last 7 games, or 2-5 in their last 7 games, but they've built out a pretty good resume. And they did beat Michigan earlier this year, so maybe they're going to squeak by. In the semifinals, we have Michigan State 55% over Wisconsin 45%, and we have Maryland 51% over Purdue 49%. And then finally in the finals, we have Michigan State 55% to 45% over Maryland. So Michigan State is the Big 10 tournament winner according to the KenPom stats. Now, I want to show you the actual scores here because the KenPom prediction formula actually gives us the scores first. So the actual scores I'm going to show on the screen here, and I put these in the scoreboard font. Northwestern 66 is 61 over Minnesota, right, in the first round and so on. Now, the only game in here that I had to do a little fudging is a Maryland over Purdue, the 2 over the 6. That's because they were so close. They actually looked like they were going to tie 75 to 75. Of course, that's not going to happen. But Maryland has a slight edge over Purdue here in this game. So again, Maryland advances to the finals against Michigan State, which Michigan State then wins in a thrilling 73 to 72 game in the final of the Big 10 tournament. Let's look at the SEC tournament. Now, I have to say, this particular tournament is very full of chalk according to KenPom, so it's not going to pick any upsets like it did in the Big 10 tournament, but that's perfectly fine. Let's look at the percentages anyways. We have Arkansas 65% to 35% over South Carolina. We have Vanderbilt 50.1% to 49.9% over Texas. Now, this is another one I had to extend a little bit further because it was so close it actually looked like it was going to be a tie. But because the SEC tournament is being played in Nashville, that basically gives Vanderbilt a home court edge there. So I'm going to pick Vanderbilt to beat Texas. And actually, the KenPom prediction formula does the same, but by 0.1%. We have Mississippi State over LSU and Georgia over Oklahoma. In the second round, we have Mississippi State over Arkansas, Texas A&M to beat Vanderbilt, 69% to 31%. Missouri to beat Mississippi State, and Kentucky to beat Georgia. In the third round, the quarterfinals, again, we have the top 4 seeds making their first appearance because they have double byes. We have Auburn over Mississippi, 81 to 19%. We have Tennessee over Texas A&M, Florida over Missouri, and Alabama over Kentucky. Now, again, this is very chalky. The KenPom formula predicts the top 4 seeds to make it to the semifinals. We have Auburn over Tennessee and Florida over Alabama. So the final game in the SEC tournament is Auburn and Florida, with Auburn a 53% chance to win that game. So Auburn's a champ. And again, let's look at the scores here. Check this one out. Another close one in the final game, Auburn 81 to 80 over Florida. Now you look at these scores here. A lot of these scores are pretty close. A lot of them in the 60s and 70s here. Look down here at the bottom in the third round. We have Alabama 94 to 91 over Kentucky. So this just goes to show you here that the tempo matters. Alabama is the fastest paced team in the country, so the KenPom prediction formula predicts this to be a really high scoring game. That's going to be really interesting to watch, I think, Kentucky and Alabama. And those are the KenPom predictions for the SEC tournament. Hope you liked this video. I'm looking forward to Selection Sunday. I'm going to put my full KenPom bracket for the entire NCAA tournament. I'm really looking forward to that. See you soon.